Let's talk a little bit about ADHD today. And really what I want to talk about is there there's 9 to 11% of the population that has a diagnosis of ADHD. And I mean that's a significant portion, right? 1 out of every 10 people has it. So there are a lot of people that come through my office and I see them and I always ask, what type of ADHD do you have? And that gets met with blank stares. Like nobody knows. And that's a concern because as we're going to find out as we go through this, knowing what type of ADHD you have really gives you the ability to know what part of your brain is affected. And when we know what part of the brain is affected, we can stimulate that part of the brain to bring on the changes in it. I mean, that's really what we're looking at, right? So if you have ADHD and you do not know what type it is, hit the like button. Just let everybody else know. Like, we're going to do a quick survey and see how many people out there do not know what type of ADHD they have. So I'm Dr. Jeff Cumro. I'm a developmental functional neurologist, and really what we look at is how does the brain develop, what parts come first, how does that body integrate with the brain, how are they balanced out, and what can we do to restore balance? So ultimately we're looking at mental, physical, and emotional balance. If we don't have that, we don't have the ability to return to health. Now, I will always give you the caveat, everything we do, we have to get out of balance to accomplish anything. So we should not always be in balance. If you are trying to start a business, you have to focus a little bit more on the business in the short term, right? With that, you spend more time there. You are out of balance in that direction. But that ability to return to balance is where health lies. And that goes for the brain, it goes for the body, and it goes for all aspects of life. So again, let's go ahead and dive into the ADHD conversation here a little deeper. There are 3 different types of ADHD. Type 1 is the inattentive type that tends to lie on the right side of the brain. You have dominance on the right side of the brain. We should be very, very clear in how we go ahead and label these. Type 2 is the hyperactive type. I mean, most people know these types of people when they see them. You're going to have a little bit more dominance on the left side. And type 3 is very similar to type 2. It is combined. You have both the inattentive and the hyperactive. And again, it is on the left side. So that is why I say that they're very, very similar. Now, the part of the brain that's stereotypically affected in ADHD doesn't mean it's going to be the only area that's affected, but it is going to be an area that is affected, is the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex has a variety of different tasks that it goes through. So it is focused on executive function. So when you're sitting there and you're saying, is this going to be a good decision for me? You're using executive function, right? If you're looking at the future and saying, if I make this choice, this is going to be the consequence, or this is going to be the reward, that's executive function. Those are the things you're using in this area of the brain. But it also has a lot of other aspects to it. It has a lot of other responsibilities to it. It plays a role in memory. It plays a role in immune function. It plays a role in your stress response. So as we're going to dive into here in a little bit, it's really the part that tells you to kind of calm down from that stress. It's the part that feeds back and tells you that you've had enough. So again, why is this important? Well, what are the symptoms that we see in ADHD? If we're talking about the inattentive type, if we're talking about type 1, we're going to see more of that inattention, right? Where does the focused attention lie? Focused attention is on the left side of the brain. If we have a weak left side of the brain, it makes sense that that's not going to work quite as well, correct? That's not the only kind of attention. There are other kinds of attention. So if you Google and say, general attention, or there's 5 different types of attention. 4 of them lie on that right side. Only the focused attention lies on the left. So it is very, very important to break this down the way that it needs to be broken down, right? What other issues do you see on those people? Stereotypically, they have a little harder time remembering things, right? Why is that? They've got dominance on this right side. The right brain is not focused so much on remembering things. It's focused more on other aspects of your attention. It's focused more on forgetting things, which it's kind of weird that the brain needs to forget things, but you can't store everything, right? So if we see those people that remember everything, more left brain dominant. So just kind of it's not a diagnostic thing, but it's something that you will see in a lot of these people. So if you start seeing that, you're like, hey, maybe they're a little more left brain, right? When we look at left brain dominance or type 2 or type 3 ADHD, what types of things do we see with that? We see more hyperactivity. Why? That left brain is overactive. The movement centers lie more in the left brain. The areas that stop it lie more on the right side of the brain. So if we don't have as much right-sided function, we don't have that ability to calm down that hyperactive. We have that better memory that we talked about. Your immune system gets started on that left side. So you're more likely to have things like autoimmunity or allergies or inflammatory situations. What can that look like? It can look anything from food intolerances to food allergies to full-blown allergies to MS or Hashimoto's thyroiditis or whatever other kind of autoimmune disorder. You may have things like increased emotionality or different things like that. Why? Because that prefrontal cortex has a big role in calming down the stress response. The stress response really lies in what's called the limbic system. They're the deep brain structures, and they put out all your emotion and everything like that. Now, that prefrontal cortex is tasked with calming that area down. It sends feedback back there and says, all right, you need to just calm it down a little bit. The ironic part of this is as we get really stressed, we start to break down that prefrontal cortex, and some of that emotionality comes out. So if you are under a lot of stress and you start to experience some of these symptoms of ADHD, this is a likely reason why. You're starting to break down that prefrontal cortex, and this is why we got to get balance back in your life. If you have that balance, you're able to turn that down. You're able to return to that state where your body can rest and recover and do the things that it needs to do. So why is all of this important? Again, what we need to work on to improve any of these situations is stimulation. But just blind stimulation isn't going to make things better. So let's look at the example of a muscle. If you have a weak muscle, let's say your right bicep is weak, what are you going to do to improve the strength of that? You're going to do exercises targeted to the right bicep, correct? But if we stimulate the right tricep, it's not going to do anything for you. If we're going to stimulate the left bicep, it's not going to do anything. If we stimulate left tricep or any other muscle other than that right bicep, it's not going to do anything for you. So we've got to know exactly what part that we're working on. Now, the ironic part in the brain is we've got the two sides. The one side really starts the activity, and the other side really stops the activity. And that's, if you look on Google, it's going to say all of your brain is activated. There are different areas of your brain that are going to have activation throughout both sides, and that is a true statement. But we bias one side in one area over that other to get an action accomplished. So don't take that as, just look into what you read is what I'm trying to say. Let's word it that way. Look into what you read, because it is very, very important to understand the underlying parts of this. Now, like I said, if we stimulate the wrong area on this, we can actually make our situation worse. Why? If you have too much stimulation of that left brain already, and you stimulate it further, it's going to further increase that imbalance between the two sides, right? What we want to do is bring more balance in there. So when you're fluctuating back and forth, you have that ability to constantly turn off the side that you want to turn off. The side that you want the function to run from is something you should be able to stimulate. But if we get that balance too far off, you can't stimulate that to turn the other side off. You might be able to turn it down, you might be able to improve it a little bit, but you're not going to do that. So as you stimulate the wrong side, you actually make this worse and worse. So it's very, very important on this to know exactly what areas are involved and to what varying degree. And with ADHD, like I said, there are 3 types. If you don't know what type it is, talk to the person that diagnosed you. See if they can tell you. And if they can't, then you should probably go through some further testing to figure out exactly what you have. It's going to help you figure out what types of therapies and medications and different things like that work better for you. Now, if you want to go with the natural approach and you're looking to stimulate that, then we should have a functional examination, looking at which areas of the brain are functioning the way that they should be, which ones are functioning a little too much, which ones are not functioning as well as they should, and then we can target the stimulation to that. So if you would like more information on that, go to drjeffreycumro.com. And really, if you want to take a free cognitive assessment, go to drjeffreycumro/checklist. So we've got it listed on there. It is a free cognitive assessment, drjeffreycumro.com/checklist. And basically, it's just going to help you figure out which areas of your brain are functioning the way that they should be, which areas are not functioning quite as well, and really give you an idea of what your symptomology is going to be with that. So I love you. I appreciate you. Please like and subscribe to this video, and I will check you out next time.